We're at the harbour here in Westport, County Mayo, which is not too far from Louisburgh. Prior to the railway, which arrived here sometime in the 1870s, would have left this harbour here to go anywhere in the world. So there's a memory lane involved there for anybody for here and the surrounding areas. Later down, of course, once the trains came into vogue, they went out from Cork and different places, but still right up to, I'd say, the early 1900s.
Yes.
There's a man sitting beside me now here that knows a lot more about that than I do, and this man's name is Tom King. And Tom has a boat here, the Neve Porrick, which does daily runs out in the harbour here, which is a huge benefit to the local area and for tourism when they come here, because it gives them an idea of where they are, the history of the place. And there is a huge amount of history relating to Clew Bay, including all the little islands that are out there, the drumlins as they're called, the Seal Island, John Lennon's Island, Granuaile, also some tragedies that happened down through the centuries. But again, I leave that over to Tom. So when kind of did the transition, we'll say, here happen, Tom, from we'll say where this was one of the busiest ports in Ireland, wasn't it? Or certainly along the western seaboard.
In 1904, this was the fourth largest steam harbour in Ireland. Now, the loads came in 500 to 1,000 tons, but as you know, the ships got bigger. A ship today of coal would be 300,000 tons, and that in those days it was 500 tons. So it'll give you an idea. You could stretch them out to the lighthouse, and they'd be shipped one after the other.
Right. The ships weren't as big, of course. The big huge liners weren't in being then.
No.
They wouldn't have come in really until the early 1900s. The Titanics.
Yeah,
the 1912s.
they were. The Titanic was only 12,000 tons.
Yeah.
You can compare that to 300,000 tons.
Yeah. The more modern ships today.
Yes.
So we'll say, if you came from a place like Louisburgh now, back in the 1800s, you left here on what they call oftentimes coffin ships.
Yes.
They might have been cheap to travel on, but your possibilities of getting to your destiny were quite slim.
They were they're mainly flak ships. Flak. There was a big weaving industry in the north of Ireland, and the boat would take a load of passengers back to America, and the gap, the level between the decks was only 4 feet, so it was very cramped. But it was better to have a load of refugees than to have empty.
So basically, they didn't have to pay much. Would they have to do work on board then?
Some would get work on board, but it roughly costing a tenner to get to America at that time.
Yeah. Well, no, that was quite a bit of money then, though, now too. Now I know there was a ship that left here on the 10th of February 1849, sorry. It was a ship called the Maria.
Maria.
Now, you were telling me before that it was customary for people, as the ships left, that people would walk along the harbour and they'd follow up the wave to the ship until it had gone out past Old Head, or even out past Runagh or thereabouts.
If it had a lot of people from Louisburgh, it would be logical that these sailing boats oiled 2 or 3 miles a knot, an hour, and you could walk along the shore and observe the boat, because once that boat went out of view, you would never see those people again.
Yeah, there was no hope. They had what was called an American wake, which was the same as a death wake.
Yes.
Everybody called round and said their goodbyes, and they knew they wouldn't see them again. But that particular ship didn't get it past Old Head because it sunk at Old Head.
Just beyond the pier.
Yeah.
At the cliffs at the back.
It was a 90-ton ship.
Yeah.
A schooner. It was built in the north in 1833, so it wasn't that old of a ship either, but some of them were badly built, and
maintain a ship is a big thing.
Maintenance wasn't particularly good.
The ship,
I think all of the people involved were drowned in that instance. Maybe 2 of the cabin crew were saved, but the rest were drowned.
Yeah,
so it was a tragedy on top of a tragic time.
Yes.
Now, of course, the other advantage to this harbour here was the actual trains came down to the mills which was just behind where we're filming here at the moment. And that mill was only just recently demolished, Pallanx's mill. This was a hugely busy area all the way along here. All the stores where the hotels and apartments are up there now, they were all they were merchant stores for holding grain and wood and coal. All the things that come in here, Tom, there was a huge amount of variables that came in.
100 and the height of the trade here, 140 ships came in here in 1 year. But divide that into 300.
Wow.
That's an awful lot of ships.
It is, yeah. The customs used to meet the ships before they arrived in to check their whereabouts on board.
Yes.
And therefore their taxes were paid accordingly before they could land at the harbour here.
Yeah,
and then of course you had the customs office, which was further up there to ensure that everybody had paid the due taxes.
It's a lovely art gallery now.
That's
but
right.
That was there was 4 men there employed, cleared the ships as they came in.
Yeah.
So that'll give you an idea how busy the place was.
Another interesting aspect along here too was what was called the idle wall.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that, Tom?
Well, this was direct labour on boats. And so if you brought in Malloy's, it was big merchant in Westport and Kelly's, they'd bring in a boat of timber and they'd want 30 men and they'd sit on an idle wall, and usually eventually each importer had his own crew, but initially the people would sit on that wall because the boat could be 2 days late in a storm.
Yes.
And whoever was there got the job.
That's right. That's why they call it the idle wall. So if you were looking for a job, you stood there and you waited in a queue. That was the style of the day. Well, thank you very much, Tom, for all your knowledge. And now we are off on the boat for a cruise. So please join us, and there isn't a pirate in sight.
Hi, I'm Tom from Westport Cruises. Welcome aboard.
I took a walk down by the quay, found myself staring out to sea. There was no place I'd rather be than down on the quay. In on the waves, a stiffening breeze blew through my hair and whipped the trees. I started thinking about Louise, as cold as the breeze. It's always been like that for me. Telling secrets to the sea. Sometimes your only friend will be a secret place like Westport Quay. After the rain I started home, lit up a fag and skinned a stone. Pushed by the wind, it seemed so clear, I'll never leave here. Past a young couple, hand in hand, love in their eyes, they seem so grand. Freedom so young and fresh and pure, I'll never die poor. It's always been like that for me. Telling secrets to the sea. Sometimes your only friend will be a secret place like Westport Quay.
And now that our cruise is over, we're crossing the road here at the quay in Westport, and we're going to go into the Heritage Centre. Well, we're here at the Heritage Centre here at the quay in Westport, and we just thought we'd drop in while we're around this general area. Haven't been on a lovely cruise there underneath Porrick. And Brona, you've been here for the past couple of years. You're the person in charge.
Hi.
Can you give us an idea of what is the Heritage Centre is about?
Well, we've been here since 1991, would you believe?
Yeah.
And this is run by Westport Historical Society. We're totally voluntary. We don't get any state funding. And this is a museum of the local area. And when we got this building many years ago, it was totally derelict. It was had been used as a store to store pigs before they were exported, and it's over 250 years old, hence the slant on the floor.
I see.
So Jarlath Duffy, who started this, and he is now deceased, he had this idea of having a museum where people could come and we could share with them the history of Westport and the surrounding area, and that is what we do. So to fund this place, there's an admission charge, small admission charge, €4. We provide a genealogical research service for people from the area who are looking to research their families from the Clew Bay area. We produce an annual journal here, which is Cover na Mark.
The history of Westport area, basically.
Westport, yeah.
Now, for the genealogy, because that's a very important part of it, all of these areas like Westport and Lewisburg and surrounding areas have huge amount of people that left and went to America. Oftentimes they left, as we were saying, on boats here, coffin ships from the harbour here. And do you have a web address, or what's their best approach to get in contact with you?
Yeah, we have a website, westportheritage.com. So,
Westportheritage.com.
yeah, so we do quite a lot.
So
of
they
that.
apply to you and whatever information they have.
Yeah.
And will you advise them how to do it, or will you take it from there maybe at a fee or whatever?
We will take it from there and we charge a fee. Because I say this is one of the ways we have
of raising some funds as well.
Being able to run this place here.
Yeah.
So another way is we run guided walking tours of Westport.
Westport, correct, yeah.
And this year, because of the COVID, we decided that we would do it a free walking tour.
Right.
So we do a free walking tour on a Wednesday right through the summer, and then very often some people, having done the walk, will come here.
Yes.
Because they are interested in learning more about Westport.
Now, I believe that you have a recreated map of what Westport was originally when Westport was down at Westport House.
Well, this is a model of the town of Westport, and it is like it is done to scale.
Yeah.
It is exactly as the town is, and this was done in the 1990s. So that anything that was built after that is not on it. And the town is more or less as it was in the 1760s. So
yeah,
the town of Westport now is basically as it was when it was planned.
correct.
In the 70s.
260
Yes,
years.
1767.
And for anybody interested here, there's also a lot of information here about Maud Gonne and Major John McBride,
There she
people
is.
associated with Westport.
Maud Gonne is here.
She was the big beauty. W.B. Yeats wrote several poems about her.
Well, Yeats was in love with her all his life.
He was.
When you are old and grey and full of sleep, and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read, and dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true. But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly, how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars.
Tell me this, Brona, do you ever get school?
Oh yes, we do a lot of work with schools.
Good.
We have a program for schools here. They come here using that model with all our visitors. We give them the history of how the town developed.
Yes.
So we do that with schools, and then they do a quiz in here, and then the program finishes off with a walking tour of Westport. This section here is Westport House and the Browns, and you can see this is a family tree, and you can see how Grace O'Malley, Granuaile.
Yeah.
These are direct descendants. These are the Browns.
That's right. The Curtin Browns are.
Yeah. So they're directly descended from her.
That's right.
This is the archaeology section.
Right. Okay. And of course, all this landscape here is very rich in that, particularly out the Louisburgh, Tallagone area.
Well, there is a Clew Bay archaeological trail, which runs from here. We're the first site on it, and it runs right out to Clare Island, all along the southern shore of Clew Bay, and there are 20 archaeological sites.
That's fascinating.
And we also do guided tours of that.
Wow.
And this here, we have a door from the workhouse.
Yeah.
And
in Westport.
Westport Workhouse.
Where the Carton and Martha State is now.
And these are bars from the windows of the workhouse. And these bars were not to keep the people in, they were to keep the people out, because people were so desperate to get into
those bars had eyes, they would have seen some strange sights, some terrible sights.
They surely would. We found this information there recently. Between 1847 and 1849, that's in 2 years, over 2,000 people in the workhouse died.
Wow.
In the space of 2 years.
Gee, and it's a small area.
Yeah.
I recommend a visit here to anybody from Louisburgh, our cousins or relations that come from away. We'd like to always recommend them to come here, because the history of all of this area is encapsulated here. And of course, a guide like yourself that knows all the history and background, what can be better than that? And especially the genealogy, because that's something that people can do from afar, online, once they contact you. We never miss up on an opportunity when we see it to interview somebody, and especially somebody interesting. And this is Father Micheál McGrail. Father Micheál has written several books. He has lectured in university. He's a great friend to the poor, and particularly to the travelling community. He actually even stayed with the travellers at one time to try and find out more about them. So it's over to you, Father. You talk. Yes.
I'd like to congratulate Louisburgh for its television and wish you every success. And what can I say? I'm a native. I was reared here in Westport, and I just finished a report on Westport, so it'll be coming out in October. Westport tourism and the Westport area. And I'm glad to see that Louisburgh is coming on.
You've also been a strong advocate for Western Rail Corridor. To get the railroads running along the western coast again.
41 years trying to campaign to bring back the railway from Limerick to Sligo. Well, we got it as far as Athenry. And now we're hoping, and we're optimistic really, to get it as far as Claremorris. But we have to also go further than Claremorris, because if there are 1.5 million pilgrims going to Knock every year, and the railway made Lourdes, and Lourdes made the railway,
right.
And then we have an airport which had 800,000 passengers last year. And also, you see, tourism in Ireland seems to come up as far as Galway and go back into Dublin. And what we're trying to do is to get the people to travel north of Galway and come into Mayo and Sligo and so on. So I have many, many interests.
Thank you very much, Father, for your contribution.
Keep up. What you're doing is exactly what we need.
Correct, community. We're outside the Heritage Centre here at the Quay, and Charlie Keating is still with us. So, seeing that we were speaking about Major John McBride, because Charlie has such a collection of songs, he's going to actually sing a song about Major John McBride.
Hooray for Major John McBride. For him we give 3 cheers. For Ireland's Dublin volunteers. He fought the English 10-1. He sent their taxing bride. But now our gallant chief is gone. Brave Major John McBride. When will the red stream cease to flow? When will her tears be dry? And who will raise the flag laid low? With Major John McBride. Poor crimeless Erin droops her head and mourns with grief and tears, our faithful son in battle dead. Brave Irish volunteers, hooray for Major John McBride. For him we give 3 cheers, for Ireland's grand old cause he died. With the Dublin volunteers.
I'd like to thank everybody associated with the programme. I'd like to thank the King family, Tom King and his son Tomas, for allowing us on board and helping us to participate in the programme. Also Mary C. Riley, who gave a wonderful talk on board in relation to all the various aspects of the Clew Bay, the tragedies, the joys, the history, all the little drumlins and islands and what they mean, and it was a wonderful outing. And of course also there Charlie Keating for the songs that he sang on board, and for the patience of other participants that were there that allowed us free movement and access on the boat. Now also Brona Joyce and all of the people who worked there voluntary at the centre there, the Heritage Centre at the quay there in Westport, and for the wonderful talk that she gave and around the centre there. And also to Charla and Tony there from Louisburgh Community TV, and hope you enjoy the programme, and welcome back sometime again. Hopefully in the future we might be able to do some other programme again, another adventure. Thank you.